Nearly 11 years would pass between the release of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in 2000 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3 in 2011. While not unheard of for sequels to take a huge amount of time, fans of the series always wanted more. In that time, there would be no new X-Men vs. Street Fighter and no new Marvel superheroes vs. Street Fighter, but sure, there would be Capcom vs. SNK and a handful of follow-ups, and a much different Namco x Capcom, and even a Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. But for those wanting superheroes in any sort of Capcom universe, they would be waiting for a very long time. But history could have been different. What if, instead of Marvel, Capcom went a different route, choosing instead to explore the universe of DC Comics? In December 2005, Climax designed a pitch for just that. Building upon the legacy of the previous title, Street Fighter vs. DC was pitched as a PSP title. This alone would likely draw criticism for two reasons. The obvious one being that while the PSP was nice and all, people would rather be playing a huge title on a console or in the arcade. Secondly, Climax seemingly didn't have experience working on fighting games. While the first is a legitimate gripe, what most gamers don't realize is that Climax did work on a PSP fighting game in 2005 and into 2006, Mortal Kombat Deception. The title would go on to be released as Mortal Kombat Unchained, with the developer listed as Just Games Interactive. In early 2006, Climax seemed to have some struggles on the project, but things were still moving ahead. The team went through a period of limbo with the title, and it isn't quite clear what was going on, but I believe there is more to the story. It would seem as though another team was brought in to either finish the game or polish the game up for its eventual release. But despite the struggles with the PSP's Mortal Kombat game, it is clear that Climax did have fighting game experience, even if it would have come during the time the pitch was being made. The gameplay of Street Fighter vs. DC would have been familiar to anyone who has played one of the previous Versus titles. 3 vs 3 combat, members that could be tagged in and out, the whole deal, with the usual story mode, versus, and training modes. Movement was to be based on X-Men vs. Street Fighter, allowing for acrobatic combat utilizing both double jumping and wall jumping, using the entire screen as the playfield. Special moves too would be returning, with a 3-level bar allowing for different magnitudes of attacks. The game would use a blend of both 3D and 2D backgrounds, with classic locations that fans would recognize, along with some brand new worlds for the PSP title. In addition to a standard fighting game control scheme, an easy operation mode would also have been included for players who might otherwise struggle with the game, allowing for easy combos and special moves. The game would have taken advantage of the PSP's wireless capabilities, allowing for 3 vs 3 fighting with 5 of your friends. Online play too was pitched, including the mentioned 6-player mode. Both tournaments and team tournaments were planned, with up to 16 players in a standard tournament and up to 5 teams in team-based tournaments. A mixed tournament mode would combine those two previous modes. Climax even planned a co-op mode, allowing a team to play through the entire story campaign together, online or through the local area network. Climax had hoped to bring in 40 characters from Capcom and DC. Players would have been able to customize the colors of their fighters, allowing new combinations to help them stand out. If those 40 characters weren't enough, the team had planned to allow for additional downloadable characters. While specific characters would have been worked out in contract negotiations, the team had hoped to use favorites from Batman, Superman, and the Joker to Ryu, Ken, and Akuma, and characters a bit less familiar to casual fans like myself. Unfortunately, it seems as though the pitch didn't go any further than this, so we're left wondering what might have been if Marvel had been dropped. Of course, we did eventually get a different Versus game with DC Comics in the form of Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, and Injustice is impressive in its own way. Fans have their own ideas for what would make a great Street Fighter vs. DC game, so there is an endless amount of speculation on the internet for those who are interested in a title like this. As I've mentioned previously, Climax is a contract studio looking to get games of any property they possibly can, so this is one of plenty of titles that they've pitched over the years. One such document that has also found its way to me is a Castlevania game that was being pitched for the Xbox 360 and the PS3, but that's a video for another day. What would you like to see in a Street Fighter vs. DC game? Let us know in the comments below. Do check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/p2ponline. And until next time, thanks for watching.